we're going to start with a fun segment, ranking the last 5 Finals MVPs. So the last 5 Finals MVPs, Kawhi, 2019 for the Raptors, LeBron, 2020, Bubble Lakers, 2021, Giannis, Bucks, Steph in 2022, and Jokic in 2023. So, does anybody in particular want to start on this?
I'll give it a go here. So, for me, my order, I went Steph 1 with the Warriors when they beat the Celtics in 2022. Then number 2, I went with Jokic this past year. 3, I went with Giannis in 21. 4, I went with LeBron with the Lakers back in the bubble. And then 5th, I went with Kawhi. I know that the Kawhi one might sound a little bit surprising, being that obviously, they played the Warriors. I mean, you had prime Steph on that team, prime Clay as well. Draymond was still balling. But at the end of the day, Kevin Durant didn't play those first 4 games of the series, and then he came back in Game 5, played 10 minutes, and then tore his Achilles. And in those 10 minutes he played, he put up 10 or 11 points and was insanely efficient. So I think that if the Warriors were healthy, obviously the Raptors wouldn't have been anywhere near winning that series. But at the same time, Kawhi also wasn't as efficient in that series as he was in the entire playoff run. He only averaged, I think it was 43% from the field, like not great shooting. Obviously he was a great defender at that point, but I don't think that compared to the other guys on this list, when it comes to like the caliber and the level of play that everybody had, I just think that he's clearly at the bottom, which is like the other guys were like historic when you look at their numbers, but like it's no shade to him saying that he's last, being that like all these guys are so great and every single one of them is a top 15 player ever, in my opinion, top 15, 20 player ever. So it's not really a shade at Kawhi for saying this, but I think he definitely has to be last. But Steph has to be first to me because, I mean, for him, he had done everything in his career. The MVP, had multiple rings, but he needed that Finals MVP to really take himself to like the next tier and like be respected in that regard. So he had a lot on the line, definitely, for sure. Yeah. And he delivered. I mean, he being 6'3", putting up 30 points in the finals and great shooting, 6 assists as well, 5 boards as a guard as well, 2 steals. I mean, that series too, I mean, against the Celtics in Game 4, I think it was, when we needed that win to make it a 3-1 series lead for us, he came out and absolutely just blitzed us, and there's nothing we could do. And I, as a Celtics fan, I just felt defenseless watching him play. I mean, it was just impossible to do anything, and I just did not feel good that whole entire run.
Yeah. All right, let's we can get to more reasoning, but let's the rest of us list our top 5, and then we can get more into the reasonings.
So I have the same list as him, except I would flip Jokic and Giannis. So my list would be Steph, Giannis, Jokic, LeBron, Kawhi.
Okay, mine's almost exactly the same as yours, but I'm going to flip Kawhi and LeBron. So I would say Steph, Giannis, Jokic, Kawhi, LeBron.
I have Curry first. I have
So we all have
Jokic,
Curry first.
Jokic second.
Fair.
I have Giannis, Kawhi, LeBron.
So you and I have... So we all are really close. So you and I have Giannis, Jokic flipped. You and I have Kawhi, LeBron flipped.
I had... Me and him had the same, except he had LeBron 5th, I had him 4th.
Yeah, so we're all like one off.
Yeah.
All right, so we all agree Steph's 1. So, and we all thought either Jokic or Giannis is 2.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into that. So, for Jokic, let's Bedzo, so you give us a little why you think Jokic is better than Giannis is.
Well, that was like a tough one for me because like I'm a huge Giannis fan. Like he had a great finals. Like no disrespect to him. Like he had 50.
Keep in mind, Finals MVPs. We're talking about the finals, not the whole run.
Well, I meant in the last game of the finals, he had 50.
I know, but I'm
In
just
the closeout,
saying.
he had 50.
I think the point of the exercise is more to who was the best in the finals, or like how much did that finals mean to them, more so than the run. So
It's just
like,
that one series.
Like for
obviously.
Kawhi,
No, I know,
like for Kawhi, we're not going to cite the Game 7 walk-off game winner, and Jokic, we're not going to say like he only lost like 3 games on the way there.
No, I know. I'm just saying like the games before do take like the games before have a role in how you play in the finals. Like Jimmy Butler was gassed by the end of that.
Fair.
So I'm saying like, but Jokic had a better finals overall. Like he was completely dominant throughout. And Giannis like didn't have a bad finals either. Like I said, 50 in the closeout, great series. Down 0-2 to start off, came back and won it 4-2. But I think Jokic from like start to finish was there the entire time. I know they were playing like an inferior team, so to speak. I mean, they were still in the finals with the Heat, but he was clearly, I think, the best. I think he was a tad better than Giannis overall in his play.
That's fair. I'd contrast you a little. I don't think it's far off. I mean, Jokic was completely dominant. I think the fact that they played the Miami Heat, who were, I like you said. I mean, not to bring the other series, but like that was not a legitimate finals team. No, like even this year, it's the same team, and nobody thinks they're gonna win the finals. That was a fluky run. So, but Giannis played the Suns, who at that point had 2 All-NBA players, and
CP3 did go down though at some point.
Yeah, he did. But Giannis also entered the series hurt because he hurt himself in the Atlanta series in the conference finals. So you could argue that played a role in them losing the first 2 games. But then to go on a sweep after that, to me, is just really impressive against a team that most people would have probably thought was superior going in, the Suns.
Yeah,
What do you think, Hutch?
Yeah, Hutch, you got anything to say?
I don't know. I mean, I do.
You picked Giannis, right?
I picked Giannis second, but I don't know if you necessarily say the Suns were a better. I guess you'd say they're a better team. The problem is Giannis is so much better than Devin Booker or Chris Paul. That's sort of an imbalance because even if the Suns are a little better at, say, their 4th best player, Giannis is they're top heavy having Giannis on their roster and then following it up with Chris Middleton and Holiday.
Yes.
And Lopez too.
And Lopez and Chris Middleton and Holiday are maybe a little worse than Booker and Chris Paul, but it's and then you just add Giannis to that.
Yep.
So maybe as a whole team they're about equal, but the way Giannis dominated in that series to me was a little more impressive than what Jokic did, simply because the Heat had no interior answer for Jokic.
I mean, the Heat's center is really a power forward, and he can't shoot threes. So Jokic didn't have to play really much defense on Bam. He's the perfect matchup for Bam. I mean, he can shoot, he's strong, and he doesn't have to defend him at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Which just completely like Bam was a non-factor.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? He's 6'9", Jokic is 6'11", and Jokic is definitely stronger. Can shoot threes. I mean, we all know Jokic is way better than Bam. And no disrespect to Bam, he's a good player, but he was no match. But at that time, I mean, at that time, a lot of people were really high on DeAndre Ayton, even though after that it's kind of seemed like he hasn't really progressed. But he was on a $200 million contract that they gave him. Like, they had high hopes for him.
I guess technically they had Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder and guys like that to throw at Giannis, Cam Johnson. I know they're all smaller, but that's why I think it's a little more impressive. I think it's close. I just think it's a little more impressive what Giannis did considering the team he was playing against. 'Cause they were both
I agree with you. I just think that the team Giannis had to play against was a little better, and although Jokic was really good, so was Jamal Murray was also electric in that series, and Holiday and Middleton were both good, but they were not like it wasn't even close. Like Jamal was relatively close to how good Jokic was. Like you could argue he averaged a 30-point.
Well, he didn't average that. I think he had. There was a game where the two of them had 30-point triple doubles each.
Yes.
There was one game where that happened. I think in like game 3 or 4 or something in Miami they did that. But yeah, I was just gonna say too. Like, I mean, for me it was definitely tough to pick because obviously we're just talking about the one series in the final.
Yes.
For me, I think that no doubt the entire run that the Nuggets went on, where they literally just annihilated everybody in their path, swept LeBron and AD in the conference finals, and did all that stuff. If we were talking about it being the whole run, I would have taken Jokic in a heartbeat over Giannis. But, like, for me, I still went with Jokic a little bit just because I just think, like Mike was saying before, I think he was just dominant throughout. Like, every single game from start to finish, it was just, like, he was just in control, and his fingerprints were all over the game. And I get it, too, with, like, some of the stats. I know Giannis had more scoring. He was putting up 35 a game, largely due to the 50-point closeout game, which is still one of the best games I've ever seen.
Yep.
But for me, Jokic, he had the 7. I think he only averaged like 7.5, 8 assists that game, which is less than what he was the entire playoffs. Still putting up 30 points a game, 14 boards or something like that. But the thing about Jokic is even when he's not getting the numbers, so to speak, his fingerprints are always all over the game. The passes that he's making, he's getting the pass to the assist, right?
Yeah.
If he's not getting the assist, he's dishing it to the guy so that he can dish it to the next open guy. I mean, his fingerprints are always all over the game. He's just always in control, and he's playing chess basically when everybody else is playing checkers out there. So for me, kind of just watching him pick apart the defense and just choose his moments. And I know Bam, as we mentioned, might be a little bit of a mismatch. He's a great defender still, I would say. He is undersized.
He is, but he's no match for Nikola Jokic.
Nobody.
No
one really is.
And he tore up Anthony Davis the round before.
Well, Anthony Davis also gets his behind kicked by Sabonis, so
still one of the best defenders in the league. Still.
Once again, we're not even. That doesn't matter though. We're not talking about that.
But Embiid is a good matchup for Jokic. Bam's just a bad matchup for Jokic.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any perimeter skills, and he's smaller.
Mm.
But what you're saying about the run, I think if you just looked at the record on the run, you could say Jokic's run was better. He did play 2 play-in teams in his run. Played Minnesota, who was... Is that also... He played 3 play-in teams.
I don't know if they had them play in that year.
They might have
the play-in.
Last year they were.
They probably were
the 8th seed.
Giannis won it 2... Or you're talking about Jokic. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking about Jokic played 3 play-in teams in his run, and the only non-play-in team was the Suns, who had just assembled KD and Booker, and they had played a couple games together with no Chris Paul, which...
Giannis had to beat the Hawks in the conference finals.
He did.
And
fair.
also, we all know Kyrie.
He
Kyrie
played
and Harden.
That was also against...
In that series, in Brooklyn, that probably would have been a sweep if Kyrie didn't get hurt. Because it was 2-0, and then in Game 3,
they were up.
And if he didn't roll his ankle, then that probably would have been over. And Harden didn't even play in those first 2 games because he was hurt. And then he came back kind of he wasn't really healthy. You saw him out there kind of hobbling around.
Yep.
He couldn't really play.
Yeah. I'd probably lean Jokic.
Also, you got to keep in mind too, the Lakers. That was not your ordinary playing team. From the time they made the trade, got rid of Westbrook, they got D'Lo in the door. They got Hachimura as well. From that point onwards, they were a really good team. They were balling.
Yeah.
And then
fair.
They kind of obliterated everyone in their path too.
The other thing about Giannis in that finals, when you're saying Jokic has his fingerprints all over it, Giannis had either the best or second best block I've ever seen in a playoff game.
Yeah, great plays.
It's either that or LeBron. So Jokic, he has his hands all over the offense. Giannis has his hands all over the defense. And at that point, he was could have been the best defender in the NBA. It was the season after he got his DPOY or the same season?
I think it was the season after.
Yeah.
Season after.
And I think also Jokic's credit, even though you might not view the Heat as the best possible competition, they still ran him down. It was 4-1 or 4-0.
4-1.
So yeah, it's a gentleman's sweep. So I think you have to give him credit for that. Just you play who's in front of you, and they stomped him down. So
that's fair. I think it's close. I don't think it's. Yeah. I'd slightly edge Giannis.
And I'm more of a Giannis fan. If I had to pick the 2, I opt for Giannis. So I'm being objective.
Yeah. So I think too, another thing we got to bring up, because we've talked about Steph's, obviously. We talked about Jokic versus Giannis. Now I want to talk about the Kawhi and LeBron one, because those are the ones where it's kind of we all have them 4 and 5, right?
Am I the only one who had Kawhi 4?
I had Kawhi 4.
I had him 5. So I think me and we were similar.
Right.
So we kind of swapped.
What's the HR department got to say about this?
What do you got to say, Aj?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe you could check real quick. I forgot what LeBron averaged in that series. I would guess somewhere around 30.
Almost a 30-point triple-double.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And he shot almost 60%, I think, from the floor.
He's 60% about, I would say.
Yeah. And then there was that game where him and Jimmy Butler were just going shot for shot. No one else could really shoot. We had Danny Green's famous 3.
He averaged 30 points.
What was rebounds and assists as well?
8 assists, 12 rebounds.
So he averaged 30, 12, and 8.
Yep.
So he shot way more efficiently than Kawhi.
That's
in
fair.
His individual finals. And I would agree his opponent is less, but not that much less, because the Warriors that year were not great once they got injured. When you take out Clay the last 2 games,
No, Clay was the last 12 minutes of the last game.
well, and the last game.
Well, that's what
He
he's
got
saying.
hurt.
He got hurt in games. In
Clay
the closeout.
got hurt in
the closeout, he got hurt.
He got hurt with how much time left?
It was
2 minutes left in the third quarter,
Yeah.
and the Warriors were up 3, and they were down 3-2.
Or yeah, the point is, I think the Warriors probably win if they get to go home and play another game. But
They weren't go.
They would have gone on
That
the road.
is at-
They
this
were
game is
at
at
home
home.
when that
I'm
happened.
sorry, I meant they close it at home, and they probably go in Toronto. But
Maybe. I don't know if they
That's
do.
what it felt like. But anyways, so anyway, I think across the board, LeBron's played better than Kawhi in his series, and Kawhi had the better run just because he had to beat Jimmy Butler's Sixers, which that year Ben Simmons was great. You have Embiid, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler all on the same team, and for Kawhi to beat them with Kyle Lowry and Siakam, it's just he was outmatched. And I know the Sixers aren't necessarily a winning franchise over the last 10 years, but
40. After the last 40 years, honestly.
40 years, yeah. But still very impressive, and he wins 4 straight against the Bucks, and that was a great Bucks roster that year.
Yep.
So the run, I would give Kawhi just for the nuance, just give him credit, 'cause I loved what Kawhi did that year. But just in the finals, he simply didn't play as well as LeBron by any metric, and maybe his individual defense was better, but as we know, the NBA is not 50-50 offense-defense. It's, I'd say 70-30.
That's definitely.
So-
I definitely agree with the 70-30. I think defense has a lot of value, but it's not half of the value.
Not what it once was.
Yeah. So.
And then
you
one more quick thing.
Yeah.
I also think Jokic played basically the same Heat team.
He did.
Similar quality Heat team that kind of surprised everybody.
Yes.
And then, so to have Jokic 3 and then put LeBron 5, I think.
One,
basically
argu-
played the same-
one thing I'd
the one-
argue there is it's also their second finals at that point versus their first finals. So you think, like, even though the roster it wasn't even comprised of the same players. A lot of the guys who
Right, yeah.
like was Max Strus even
No.
on he was
That-
not on
not
the
the
bubble
first
team.
one.
That first team, like Dragic and Bam were in and out. Like they didn't play
Yes.
every single game.
Dragic didn't play at all, and he was their leading scorer. I don't think Dragic played any games.
So the next guys up were a rookie hero and then a Duncan Robinson.
Yes.
Who he's better now. Like Duncan Robinson a couple of years ago couldn't really do anything other than shoot. Where now you can see he kind of has a little bag to him. He can drive.
Yeah.
He's definitely kind of expanded his game. Where
Yeah.
back then, like he really wasn't doing anything. And plus Jokic, while Murray's great, like AD and LeBron on the same team, like that year they were probably 2 of the top 5 best players.
They were both first
Yeah.
team All-NBA that year.
That's the other
Right.
argument I would use just in Kawhi's favor is Kawhi's second best player was second year Pascal Siakam, who had 19 points a game in the finals, when Kawhi's averaging 29, and LeBron his efficiency was way better. I mean, you can't take that away from him, but it also just makes it a lot easier to score when you have another top 5 player on your team.
It does. It's a matchup nightmare.
Who's also going to be the guy who is drawing. I'd say AD was probably drawing more attention than LeBron in that series because just because of his position.
Yeah.
Not even saying no. I mean, Anthony Davis, I would say, also played at a closer level to LeBron than Siakam did to Kawhi.
Yes, it's true.
But the rest of the Raptors team is better than probably the rest of the Lakers team.
It's a good point.
Really?
The Lakers didn't have a good roster that year. They were playing Rajon
Really?
Rondo and Dwight Howard. That was their lineup. It was and at that point,
played
come on,
big,
they were
but,
washed.
You know, just
I mean-
player for player, Fred VanVleet versus Caruso. You'll take Fred VanVleet.
Would you?
Fred VanVleet's been an all-star.
he's
I'd
better
take him
than
all day.
Caruso.
All day. Yeah, I'd be taking
Fair.
He's
Fred.
better
But it
than
also
KCP.
that wasn't the
Depends which
same.
side of the
It
ball
wasn't
you're
the
taking.
same Fred VanVleet at that point.
And also
though.
at that point,
He's been
Caruso
better.
got better from that point onwards, so you got to keep that in mind. That
So
was
did
kind of
VanVleet.
like, did he really get that much better? I feel like
He
Fred
wasn't
was
an
like,
all-star at that point.
he wasn't an all-star, but like he was still probably putting up similar numbers. Whereas Caruso, that was like he was like very early on in his career, and I feel like he definitely developed a ton, like on the defensive end. Like he's like recent. I feel like only recently people have started talking about him kind of being like an elite defender. Like when he was on the Lakers, I feel like he was more of kind of like a meme where like people just liked him because he was like the bald
Yeah.
white guy, right? That just
Yeah.
like
He was a good
it's-
player with the Lakers, you know. Just he's not as good as Fred VanVleet.
No, yeah. But I think I do agree that Raptors team was better overall, and obviously the injuries that the Warriors sustained. I mean, the Kevin Durant one was huge, but once again, that Warriors team was still good. Other than
It's still a team that had won
Yeah.
a championship with the roster they had They had their key pieces. They had Steph, Clay,
And
Dre,
Yeah.
and Iguodala.
Yeah, they did.
And
Who-
Cousins, did he
what-
Actually,
already-
Iguodala, I don't think Iguodala played. I think Iguodala was actually in and out that series as
I
well.
think he was.
I'm pretty sure he was. That was
Okay.
towards the end, but
Because they were depleted at the end. They had really no one to even pass to.
in the last quarter.
Well, just without KD even, they didn't have much of a roster.
I guess.
Because a lot of their older role players had kind of fizzled away.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, I would just say once again, like, the run in totality, Kawhi's run was definitely better, and that's not even a question, because the Lakers, who they play, like, the Blazers, the Rockets, and the Nuggets on the way to the finals, and that was before, Jokic and Murray really became that dynamic duo that they are now. But, like, I would just say LeBron's efficiency that finals was nuts. I mean, 60% from the field, 30 points a game. I would just, like, have to give it to him based off his numbers. I know 80 brings that mismatch, right? He was a top 5 player in the league that year, but I would just have to say that overall LeBron was definitely, to me, better than Kawhi in those series. But other than that, I think that our lists were all, like, pretty similar. It's cool that we all had Curry at the top. I mean, I think that's...
One last point on Kawhi is just, to me, the story. I mean, they'd never won a championship before, which also helps Jokic's story. And Giannis's, they hadn't won since the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, these long gaps are really impressive, and nothing against LeBron, but, like, he's winning for the Lakers, who spend big money on superstars. Kawhi gets traded to the Raptors for his one season there, and I mean, they've been good since, but they're just not the same, obviously. And LeBron in the bubble, the bubble is definitely counts as a championship. It's nonsensical to say that it doesn't count. To me, it's just like, as a story, to me, the Raptors one just felt more impressive than the Lakers one.
As a run.
And Kawhi had
It was epic to watch that run. It was epic.
Even just
crazy
the
run,
finals. I mean, even just like you're saying, you could say statistically that, I mean, points, they're the same. LeBron's a tiny bit above in rebounds and about a bit above in assists, and a lot more efficient. So if you're going strictly stats, you'd give it to LeBron, and they won it in
4-2, I think.
Yeah. So they were both 6-game series.
Lakers
So
should have
I
gotten
just-
that done earlier too. For being
They
real,
should
that's
have.
not
They
a
should
great
have.
6.
Okay.
And
Jimmy-
one game
Jimmy
could have
will
went the
get you.
Heat's way too. Like there was one game that like the Heat could have won it.
But
Jimmy will get you.
to me, I just and I don't even I mean, LeBron, like, winning that championship also just cemented his legacy.
That was huge.
That
Three
was
different teams.
huge for him,
Three
yeah.
different teams. That was massive.
Yeah, and to me, I'd just say the tiebreaker for me is just the story. Kawhi's is just, it was incredible. It just felt awesome.
And I think to add to that story too, like the year before he had barely played. And, like he had a lot of doubters. It's like, oh, like is this guy kind of for real? Like,
Yeah.
because he won the Finals MVP back in like 2014. So it'd been a couple years like since then. Like people didn't know if like he was going to come back right, and like he had a lot to prove now. Like a different organization. Like can he win without Greg Popovich? Was it just the Spurs who made him good? So he kind of silenced a lot of doubters with that championship.
And people
Yeah.
wondered if he'd even play.
Exactly.
People were wondering if he'd sit.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for the day. Thank you for watching this long episode of the 4-Point Play. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out some of our other content.
Like and subscribe.